This country is smaller than China's Hainan Island and has been blockaded by its neighbors for more than 30 years. Yet it became the world's first nation to adopt Christianity as its state religion and has preserved its identity for over 6,000 years without ever being assimilated. It's Armenia. You probably first heard its name in news reports about its war with Azerbaijan and its geopolitical ties with Russia, or maybe because of Armenia's world-famous women. Widely regarded as one of the Caucasus's three lands of great beauty, Armenian women blend the finest features of both Europe and Asia. With soft oval faces and deep, expressive eyes, they combine the elegance of Eastern Europe with the grace and resilience of the Middle East. Even the globally famous Kardashian family has pure Armenian ancestry. But once you truly visit Armenia, you'll discover it may be the most contradictory country in the entire Caucasus. Its land area is just 29,700 square kilometers, about two-thirds the size of China's Hainan Island, with a population of roughly 2.8 million. That's smaller than many mid-sized Chinese cities. Its official currency is the Armenian dram, the official language is Armenian, and Russian is also widely spoken. Ethnic Armenians make up more than 98% of the population, making it one of the world's 5 most ethnically homogeneous countries. As a landlocked nation, Armenia has been completely blockaded by Turkey to the west and Azerbaijan to the east for more than 35 years. With a weak industrial base, its economy is expected to total less than $30 billion in 2025, with GDP per capita around $8,000. Yet despite its apparent vulnerability, this small country possesses an exceptionally strong sense of national identity, thousands of years of civilization, and an almost stubborn will to survive. Some even say that if the Jewish people are history's greatest survivors in exile, Armenians are the greatest at surviving against all odds. Even today, Armenia remains caught in the rivalry of major powers, bordered by Georgia to the north, Iran to the south, Turkey to the west, and Azerbaijan to the east. Located at the crossroads of Eurasia in the Caucasus, its geography makes true neutrality nearly impossible. After all, the Caucasus has never been a peaceful land. Whoever controls it can influence the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, the Middle East, and southern Russia. It is an energy corridor, a religious frontier, an imperial buffer zone, and a crossroads of ethnic groups. And Armenia sits right at the center of that storm. Many people assume Armenia is part of Europe, but strictly speaking, it lies in the South Caucasus of Western Asia. However, centuries of European religious and cultural influence have shaped its identity to lean more toward Europe. Today, Armenia has formally applied for European Union candidate status. More than 90% of Armenia lies above 1,000 meters, with an average elevation of 1,800 meters, making it a classic mountainous, landlocked country. The terrain is higher in the northwest and lower in the southeast. Mount Ararat, the country's highest peak, rises 4,090 meters in the northwest. The Lesser Caucasus Mountains stretch across the north, while Lake Sevan, the largest alpine freshwater lake in the Caucasus, lies in the east. Covering 1,360 square kilometers, Lake Sevan is Armenia's water tower, supplying more than 90% of the country's drinking water. The 1,000-year-old monasteries around the lake are also among Armenia's most famous cultural landmarks. Snow-capped mountains, pristine lakes, endless forests, volcanic hot springs, and frequent geothermal activity make it a renowned wellness destination. Many visitors even call it the Switzerland of the Caucasus. Armenia has a subtropical highland continental climate, with conditions varying greatly by elevation. Winter temperatures range from -2 degrees Celsius to 12 degrees Celsius, and snow can last up to 6 months in the northern highlands. Summer temperatures average 24 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius, making the highlands a natural summer retreat. Annual rainfall ranges from 200 to 800 millimeters, increasing from the western plains to the eastern mountains. Its capital, Yerevan, is the country's only municipality with special status and one of the world's oldest continuously inhabited cities. Founded in 782 BC, it predates Rome by 29 years. Located on the Ararat Plain, Yerevan has 4 distinct seasons with cool, dry summers and mild winters with little snow, giving the ancient city a relaxed, livable atmosphere. Walking through Yerevan, you'll notice a striking contrast between massive Soviet-era buildings, aging buses, gray neighborhoods, and lively cafes. French-style architecture, widespread digital payments, and a vibrant bar scene filled with young people. It feels both Eastern European and Middle Eastern, blending the weight of the Soviet past with the laid-back charm of the Mediterranean. That contrast comes from Armenia's thousands of years of history. Armenians have always believed they are one of the world's oldest peoples. While that reflects a strong national narrative, the depth of Armenia's civilization is undeniable. As early as the 9th century BC, the kingdom of Urartu emerged here, laying the foundation for a unified Armenian people. But the decision that truly shaped Armenia's fate for the next 2,000 years was the one we mentioned earlier, nearly 80 years before the Roman Empire. In AD 301, Armenia became the world's first nation to adopt Christianity as its state religion. That timing was no small detail. It shaped the very foundation of the nation's survival. From that moment on, religion became more than faith. It became the core of the Armenian nation's identity and survival. The Armenian Apostolic Church is one of Christianity's oldest independent churches. As part of the Oriental Orthodox tradition, it is distinct from the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and Protestant churches. This unique religious tradition became the nation's strongest defense against assimilation. Surrounded by Persia and later the Islamic world to the east, the Ottoman Turks to the west, the Arab Empire to the south, and the Slavic world to the north, Armenia was caught between powerful civilizations. With a small population and limited military strength, the nation might have disappeared without a powerful spiritual bond. The Armenian Apostolic Church became the heart of the nation. In AD 303, Echmidzin Cathedral was built, the world's oldest surviving Christian cathedral, and the church's global headquarters. Often called Armenia's Vatican, it is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and has stood for centuries as the spiritual symbol of the Armenian people. Many nations lose their language and culture after losing their homeland, but Armenians preserve their identity for thousands of years through their churches, alphabet, and faith. In AD 405, the scholar Mesrop Mashtots created the Armenian alphabet, which remains in use today, a remarkable rarity in the modern world. While many small nations saw their languages absorbed by larger ones, Armenians have never abandoned their language or writing system. They understood that once a language disappears, a nation's roots disappear with it. If the Armenian alphabet is the nation's spiritual code, then its thousand-year-old monuments are the physical proof of its enduring civilization. As of 2026, Armenia has 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including the Echmidzin Cathedral Complex and Hagpat Monastery, considered a masterpiece of medieval Caucasian architecture. It also includes Geghard Monastery, carved into the mountains and preserving its original religious character. These ancient monuments are both enduring witnesses to Armenian civilization and irreplaceable treasures of world architecture. One detail captures the nation's destiny better than anything else. To this day, Armenia's coat of arms features Mount Ararat, where Noah's Ark is said to have come to rest. Yet this sacred mountain, the symbol of Armenian identity, now lies entirely within Turkey, visible but forever out of reach. Echmidzin Cathedral still preserves what is believed to be a fragment of Noah's Ark as a sacred relic. It's as if the Armenian people have sealed their longing for their homeland within this ancient cathedral, preserving thousands of years of exile and perseverance. But more than religion, the event that truly shaped the modern Armenian identity was a tragedy etched into the nation's memory. In 1915, the Ottoman Empire began the mass deportation and systematic killing of Armenians. The tragedy, known to Armenians as the Great Catastrophe, claimed an estimated 1 to 1.5 million lives. Today, 34 countries officially recognize it as genocide, while Turkey continues to reject that characterization. The tragedy profoundly shaped the Armenian nation and gave rise to one of the world's largest diaspora communities. Today, there are an estimated 8 to 10 million people of Armenian descent worldwide, and more than half live outside Armenia. Large Armenian communities can be found in Russia, France, the United States, Lebanon, and Iran. Los Angeles is even called a second Armenia by many. Living in diaspora for generations, many Armenian families teach their children never to forget their history or their heritage. As a result, Armenian national identity remains remarkably strong. Even after generations abroad, many still speak Armenian, attend Armenian churches, and keep their traditional surnames. That deeply rooted national memory continues to shape the geopolitics of the Caucasus, especially the decades-long conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh. Though small, the region has kept the Caucasus unstable for decades. It has long been home to a large Armenian population but was placed within Soviet Azerbaijan during the Soviet era. After the Soviet Union collapsed, the First Nagorno-Karabakh War broke out, and Armenia gained control of the region and surrounding territories. But after 2020, the balance shifted dramatically. Backed by oil wealth, Turkish support, and modern drone warfare, Azerbaijan gained a decisive advantage in the Second Nagorno-Karabakh War and recaptured much of the lost territory. A lightning offensive in September 2023 completely changed the situation. Azerbaijan took full control of Nagorno-Karabakh, the local Armenian authorities were dissolved, and more than 100,000 Armenians fled to Armenia. As of March 3, Armenia and Azerbaijan still have not signed a formal peace treaty. A ceasefire remains in place, but border clashes still occur from time to time. The defeat dealt Armenia a devastating blow, and made many Armenians realize for the first time that Russia would not always be their protector. For years, Armenia depended heavily on Russia's security umbrella. Russian military bases remained in the country, and both nations belonged to the CSTO. But after the Russia-Ukraine war began, Russia faced mounting strategic pressure, and its influence in the Caucasus declined significantly. Since then, Armenia has begun a major shift in foreign policy, repeatedly skipping CSTO military exercises and formally launching the process of leaving the alliance. At the same time, it has steadily moved closer to Europe and the West. Yet Armenia remains trapped in a deep strategic dilemma. Relying on Russia no longer guarantees security, but fully turning toward Europe is equally difficult. Blockaded by Turkey and Azerbaijan, Armenia depends on Georgia and Iran for access to the outside world, leaving its security and economy tightly bound to external forces. This constant sense of vulnerability is the root of Armenia's enduring survival instinct. At this point, many people wonder how Armenia's economy performs under such difficult geopolitical conditions. The answer is simple. It's not wealthy, but it's not as bleak as many imagine. Armenia has a typical service-based economy, with services making up over 60% of GDP in 2025, industry about 25%, and agriculture around 15%. Its industrial base remains weak, with much of its heavy industry dating back to the Soviet era. The country also relies heavily on imported energy, especially natural gas from Russia. Although agriculture remains important, Armenia's mountainous terrain leaves only about 494,000 hectares of arable land, roughly 17% of the country's total area. The economy is supported by three main pillars: remittances from abroad, the IT industry, and mining. First are overseas remittances, sent home by Armenians working in Russia, Europe, and the United States. The second is the rapidly growing IT sector. Few people realize Armenia was a major Soviet center for mathematics and electronics. After the Russia-Ukraine war began, many Russian programmers and tech companies temporarily relocated to Yerevan, fueling a boom in the local digital economy. Today, programmers fill cafes across Yerevan, giving the city the feel of a miniature Silicon Valley in the Caucasus. By 2025, IT accounted for more than 12% of Armenia's GDP, the fastest growth in the South Caucasus. Armenia also has some of the world's largest molybdenum reserves, along with rich deposits of copper and gold. Mining exports remain a major source of foreign currency. Even so, Armenia's economy remains fragile. The average monthly income is only about 4,400 yuan, with a wide gap between the capital and rural areas. In Yerevan, typical monthly wages range from about 5,400 to 6,800 yuan, while workers in remote provinces may earn less than 2,000 yuan a month. Prices reflect that divide. In Yerevan, a simple local meal costs about 20 to 35 yuan, dinner for two at a regular restaurant runs 135 to 170 yuan, and a one-bedroom apartment downtown rents for about 1,350 to 2,050 yuan per month. A bus ride costs less than 1.5 yuan, Fresh milk is under 7 yuan, and a pound of fresh beef costs around 34 to 41 yuan. Basic monthly expenses for food, transportation, utilities, and internet total at least 2,000 to 2,700 yuan for an average family. Even salaried workers in the capital have little left after paying rent and living expenses, while many people in rural areas can barely make ends meet. As a result, young people continue to leave. According to official 2025 data, more than 200,000 young Armenians have emigrated since the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war, over 7% of the country's population. For many young Armenians, the dream isn't building a future at home but emigrating to Russia, Europe, or the United States. It's a challenge many small countries face, nurturing talented people only to watch them leave. Yet despite these economic struggles, Armenia has preserved a relatively comprehensive social welfare system, inherited from the Soviet era, one of the foundations that has helped the nation endure for centuries. In education, Armenia provides 12 years of free universal public schooling. The system includes 1 year of preschool, 6 years of primary school, and 5 years of secondary school. Public school tuition and textbooks are free, and students in remote mountain areas also receive free uniforms and lunches. The literacy rate remains around 99.8%, ranking among the world's highest alongside countries like Japan and Finland, with virtually no illiteracy. Despite limited resources, Armenia continues to prioritize science and engineering. Mathematics, physics, and computer science at public universities have very low tuition, providing talent for the country's growing IT sector. In healthcare, Armenia provides universal basic medical coverage, essential care for children under 18, seniors over 65, and other eligible groups is free of charge. Prenatal care and childbirth are fully covered, all routine childhood vaccinations are free, and basic medications for chronic illnesses such as hypertension and diabetes are provided at no cost. The government also provides lifelong free medical care and living subsidies for survivors of the 1915 Armenian Genocide, making support for fellow Armenians a core principle of its healthcare system. Armenia also has universal pension coverage. Even lifelong farmers without formal employment can receive a basic state pension after retirement, with a minimum monthly payment of about 1,300 yuan, enough to cover basic living costs. Families with children receive generous support. Mothers can take up to 18 months of paid maternity leave, with full salary for the first 6 months and government benefits for the remaining year. Children under 3 receive monthly childcare subsidies, while routine checkups and vaccinations are free. These policies help reduce the financial burden on young families. Of course, the welfare system also has clear limits. Because of the country's limited resources, the best schools and hospitals are concentrated in Yerevan, while remote areas often have only basic medical and educational services. Patients with serious or complex illnesses often face high out-of-pocket costs, and many travel to neighboring Georgia or Russia for advanced treatment. That's why, despite a social safety net that covers basic needs, many young Armenians still choose to leave. Welfare can provide security, but it cannot create greater opportunities. Yet these economic challenges have never weakened Armenia's deep cultural identity. Built on the foundation of universal education, the country continues to take immense pride in its heritage. Education, music, and the arts have become another pillar of the nation's survival. Armenia is also one of the world's strongest chess nations. Since 2011, it has been the first country to make chess a compulsory subject in elementary school, a policy that remains in place today. Despite its population of just 2.8 million, Armenia is also a world-class powerhouse in weightlifting and wrestling. Since making its Summer Olympic debut as an independent nation in 1996, it has won 8 gold, 13 silver, and 23 bronze medals, ranking among the world's top 10 in Olympic medals per capita. It's proof that even a small country can achieve extraordinary things. Armenians are also renowned for their musical traditions. The best-known instrument is the duduk, a traditional Armenian woodwind whose deep, haunting sound reflects the nation's long history of hardship. Its unique voice was even included on the Voyager Golden Record, carrying a piece of Armenian culture into deep space aboard Voyager 1. Armenian cuisine blends Caucasian and Mediterranean influences. Grilled meats, flatbread, yogurt, and wine are staples, and many Armenians believe their homeland is one of the world's oldest centers of winemaking. Archaeologists discovered a 6,100-year-old winery in Ararat, currently considered the world's oldest known wine production site, confirming Armenia's ancient winemaking tradition. Armenia is also famous for its brandy. Ararat brandy was a lifelong favorite of former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and a prestigious diplomatic gift during the Soviet era, with its centuries-old craft still preserved today. The same village of Ararat also yielded the world's oldest known leather shoe, about 5,500 years old, roughly 1,000 years older than the Egyptian pyramids. Discoveries like these continue to reveal the depth of Armenia's ancient civilization. Another fact many people overlook is that Armenia is a remarkably safe country, especially its capital, Yerevan. It has one of the lowest violent crime rates among former Soviet states. Society is relatively conservative, people generally trust one another, and despite limited wealth, the country has a strong sense of public order. Armenia is also very welcoming to Chinese visitors. Chinese passport holders can enter visa-free for up to 90 days, and it's one of the few countries that allows Chinese self-driving travelers to enter overland using a Chinese driver's license. It was also among the first South Caucasus countries to support China's Belt and Road Initiative. During the pandemic, Armenia was one of the first in the region to send medical supplies to China, while Chinese companies have helped build roads, hydropower stations, and other infrastructure. Trade and cultural exchanges between the two countries remain close. Still, Armenia faces serious challenges, including population decline, low birth rates, dependence on foreign economies, geopolitical isolation, and the lasting scars of history. Its greatest challenge is the lack of strategic depth. The country is only about 200 kilometers wide from east to west and 360 kilometers long from north to south. A modern fighter jet can cross the country in less than 10 minutes. Armenia is so small that even a single border conflict can reshape its future. An ancient Armenian proverb says, "Stones do not rust, and Armenians cannot be conquered." That saying perfectly captures the nation's resilience. Armenians carry a unique spirit, both sensitive and unyielding, shaped by sorrow yet strengthened by generations of perseverance. They know their history, understand their reality, and though they have been conquered countless times over thousands of years, they have never truly disappeared. Even today, Armenia is still answering the same timeless question: how can a small nation survive with dignity amid competing empires? So how did you first hear about Armenia? Through the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, its rich history, or its famous women? Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Thanks for watching today's episode of Defay Global Geography. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm Defay, and I'll see you in the next episode.